Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another First Tech Challenge Coaches Corner. Appreciate everyone signing in to hear about the latest news. My name is Louis Rubo. I am the Team Development Education Specialist with First Nevada. If you have any questions during the presentation tonight, feel free to type them into the chat. We have a small crowd here, so you're welcome to unmute yourself and go ahead and just ask away. We'll also have a couple of stopping points along the way to gather your thoughts and chime in with any questions you might have. So I'll get started. Just a friendly reminder that we maintain a public resource folder for all of our documentation that you'll see throughout the season. So, for example, tonight's presentation slides are in there, as well as our presentations that you saw during our workshops, as well as things like the league assignments, which we'll talk about later on this evening. So you're welcome to jump over to that resource folder at any time, grab whatever you need for the season. If you also feel like there's something we should put in there, just let us know. We'll be happy to add it as well. So tonight, I really want to touch on three major things. I just want to talk about some reminders, actually quite a bit of reminders from First Nevada, get us going into the season. And we're about ready to start league play pretty quickly. Of course, we have a little Thanksgiving break in between, but I just want to start off by talking about some league play and what exactly that is, and also talk about forming your team roster, because we will start collecting those rosters here in the next few weeks as you start coming out to those league matches. So let me start off with a handful of reminders from First Nevada. First off, I do want to remind you of our dynamic calendar. And why it's dynamic is that as we get updated information about our venues and our competitions, we put that information on our calendar. So as you start seeing information related to the league meets coming on here, this is your place to go to get the latest information about all of those events. Just search for any of the First Tech Challenge events labeled either in orange or with the FTC at the beginning. Click on the title of those events and you can get some information. If your team is helping out with other programs, maybe hosting a First LEGO League Challenge or First LEGO League Explorer event, you can also see that information there. If you're interested in maybe seeing what First Robotics competition is about, we have a couple items there on the list for you as well. So please feel free to check out those events online. Remember, all of our events are free and open to the public. So now that we're kind of a month-ish into the season, we have had a couple of workshops. I just want to remind you that the materials from those workshops are available to you. So, for example, we recently had our computer-aided drafting, or computer-aided design workshop, I should say, which was a virtual workshop. So we have both a YouTube playlist video from it, as well as the presentation slides. So if you're interested in learning a little CAD, you're welcome to go back and review both the video as well as the slides itself from that workshop. I also remind you that the Robot in a Day workshop material is also posted in the public resource folder as well. So next up on the schedule is we do have a workshop this weekend. We have the Autonomous Programming Workshop. So we have that both in Reno and in Las Vegas. It's an in-person workshop. It's in the mornings from 9 to noon. So during this workshop, what we're going to do is cover kind of the strategy that you might think about employing as you get ready for that into the deep season. We'll also talk about programming your robot to actually move around during that autonomous period. And then what we're going to do is we actually have a very special surprise. As you may have heard, there's now Limelight 3A, which is applicable to First Tech Challenge. And so we'll touch on it very lightly at the end of the workshop, a little bit about actually using the Limelight. But we also have another special surprise. If your team is a part of a public school or charter, we actually have some free Limelights to give to your team. There is a couple of caveats to it. First, your team has to be registered with First. You have to have paid your season fee already. As I said, you also have to be part of a public school or charter. And we want you to fully participate in the league play this year. So that means a pair of league meets along with a league tournament. We need you to register for the autonomous workshop and then actually attend and participate in it. So we don't want somebody to just drive by and pick it up as if we're a drive-through McDonald's or something. So the idea here is that we actually were able to purchase some limelights. Now, the reason we can only offer this to public schools or charters is this was actually some of the last funding that came out of Nevada Department of Education funds. So these were by donor intent to support teams at public schools and charters. So that's why we do have to put that little catch in there. The last catch I do want to remind you is we do have a limited number of them. So it's the first 9 eligible teams that actually fulfill those eligibility requirements. You will receive a limelight, and that's for each location. We have 9 available limelights for both Reno and as well as Las Vegas. And again, I just want to say we'll touch on using the limelights very little at the end of the workshop, since these are brand new and teams have not had a chance to really play with them, nor actually integrate them onto their robot. We just kind of give a very gentle introduction to them. So most of the autonomous workshop will be of the structure of like I was talking about, kind of strategy, some programming, both time-based and encoder-based, and then we'll touch on using the limelight at the very end. So that's pretty exciting. I guess I should say, for those who don't know what limelight is, I should go back and say that. It's a tool that's been available for the first robotics competition for a number of years. It's a vision camera that has the ability to do quite a bit. And in particular for us, it can do things like read those April tags, as well as detecting game elements. So it has a lot of abilities that for a first tech challenge can be very useful to our teams. Now, this weekend in the morning is just the workshop in both Reno and Las Vegas. We have a scrimmage, or I should say scrimmage, this Saturday as well. So this is our annual get-together in late October. What we do is, of course, we have a field set up for you and your teams. If the teams are ready, we have practice matches and the opportunity to converse with our referees to learn a little bit more about the game. This is also a sort of build day as well. So even if your robot isn't ready to get on the field, it's a wonderful opportunity to come out, network, and learn from each other. If your robot is ready, we can also do some basic inspections of it to make sure it would maybe possibly pass robot inspection or the field inspection. So overall, this is a great opportunity for you to come out, regardless of the state of your robot. We're there to help you kind of get it moving along, and also for you to network with other teams. Now, of course, this is the end of October, so we do call it a scrimmage. This is your chance to come dressed up as well, have some fun, kind of getting the Halloween spirit a few days early. I know down here in South, we've had some great costumes over the past few years. Obviously, in the North, that's been the case too. I love that picture down there on the bottom right from a couple seasons ago at the prior scrimmage up there. So yeah, again, this is this Saturday. There's no need to register. Just come on by. We happily have you. We'll have a pit table all set for you. Your space at the field for you to run your robot on there if it's ready. If it's not, that's okay. We're there to help out kind of with programming and building techniques. And then whatever questions you have, we're there to answer for you. I guess I should say the locations, I have it on the screen there, but we'll be at Virginia City High School this year in the North, and in the South, we will be at Foothill High School. So those are our 2 main locations for this weekend. Now, this will be the first time we get together with the robots in motion. Well, we a little bit had it at the robot in the day, but we'll again this weekend expect to have that to some extent. I just want to remind all of our teams, this is a standard rule that's been there forever, that everyone must wear safety glasses whenever you're in the pits or at the field. So do make sure that your team brings them. First Nevada will not have many to hand out. We actually only make sure to have enough for our volunteers. So your teams are kind of expected to have these as standardized equipment with the team. So I just want to remind you that any event moving forward that has robots in motion, basically, you need to have your safety glasses. So this will be a part of this weekend for both the workshop and the scrimmage, to make sure your team packs those safety glasses up, brings them along with you, so we'll have them ready for you at the event. No, we will have it ready for you, so you will have it ready for your team at the event. They're inexpensive, but they are a requirement. And I know as we get into the league meets and league tournament, we will be more particular about making sure everybody's wearing those safety glasses, especially as they get close to the field or throughout the pits. Another workshop coming up on November 9th. We have the UNLV Business and Marketing for First Teams workshop down in the South. This is a great, about 3/4 day long workshop where teams are invited to go to UNLV and hear from faculty in the Lee Business School about different aspects of the business world that's kind of applicable both to your young adult life as well as the teams. So we'll talk about things like budgeting, marketing, and even soft skills, communication and collaboration. Lunch will be provided by UNLV. They will also offering tours to go to the new engineering building. So it's a nice, great experience to see UNLV and also to learn from the business school about that more than robots component to FIRST. So there is a registration for this. We do need to get a head count because they are ordering food. And this is welcome to all of our FTC and FRC teams. So if you are going to be in the Las Vegas area on November 9th and you're not volunteering for our qualifier for First Lego League, then you're more than welcome to come over to UNLV and learn some business. So now looking way down the calendar, we do have one more workshop to go. That is the Engineering Portfolio Workshop, which is on January 4th, so right after the new year. This is a virtual workshop where I will discuss the engineering portfolio. There are some changes to the engineering portfolio this year, and specifically how and what goes in it and what judged awards it's related to. So this would be a great time to come out and learn about that. There is a registration form. We like to kind of give a head count of how many people are going to attend, but it is way down the road. I understand that. So just mark your calendars for now. The workshop goes from 3 to 5 on Saturday, January 4th. And again, it's a virtual workshop, so you can just sign in and just kind of listen and participate virtually through this workshop. And as a few teams, I do need to remind you that we are collecting our First Nevada season fees. So the idea here is that, as we've discussed before, there are two FIRST organizations responsible for developing and delivering the program to you. There is what we call FIRST Headquarters. This is the organization that every year develops the game for us, defines the standards for delivery. They're the organization that you register your team to. And so that's where the $295 goes to. That is to FIRST Headquarters. Separately, we are our own nonprofit as First Nevada. We are the ones responsible for hosting things like our workshops, our league meets, our league tournaments, and all of our competitions. So we ask our teams to pay a separate season fee, and that covers the cost of hosting those events, as well as having our own equipment so that we can give you the best experience at the events. The first season fee for us is $200, and that, of course, covers all your participation in things like the Coaches Corners, those workshops, as well as all your league play. And should your team advance to state championship, it covers the entry fees to all of those. A few teams are still missing those payments. We do need to get those in as soon as possible. When your team is registered with FIRST Headquarters, we pull that registration information from headquarters. We then take that information and we send you an email from our QuickBooks account asking you to pay it. So you'll get an invoice that way. You can just click on the invoice itself, pay it by credit card right there. It takes no time at all and gets you through. When you do this, you're going to see that invoice on the left-hand side. And then on the right, as soon as you pay it, you'll have a nice receipt that shows that payment to it. So do make sure you have that payment as soon as possible. We do need to make sure to have those funds available for us to host these events for you. Other thing I should remind you from First Nevada is we are once again reusing and doing the coaches questionnaires. So you will see a brief survey get sent out to our coaches. We would just like to hear back from you, see how things are going, make sure everything's okay. If you have any questions or concerns, this is a great opportunity for you to just let us know if you want some feedback or you need some help Or if everything's going hunky-dory, just give us a thumbs up and let us know. We just want to get an idea of how things are going from your perspective, because we only get to see you about once a month as we progress through the season, maybe twice a month, especially as we get into the later part. So we want to just know if you're doing okay and everything. If there's anything we can help with, first related, I should say, please feel free. We encourage you to fill out the questionnaire no matter what state you're in. And then depending on how you fill it out, we'll gladly help you and reach out and answer your questions. Or if everything's going great, that makes us feel good. So it makes us let us know that you are supported and everything is being addressed for you. One last announcement. I just want to remind everyone that this season we are trying a new form of communication. We introduced Slack for all of our first teams. So First Nevada is hosting a Slack workspace. We have one singular workspace for all the programs. So in early September, I took all the information from the registered team at that point in the season. I sent you a Slack invitation to join the workspace. And I sent it directly to our First Tech Challenge coaches, so that what that did is it automatically added you to all of our FTC channels. But maybe you're doing some cross-program, maybe you're working with First Lego League, interested in First Robotics Competition. You're welcome to join and follow the other channels as well. Now, the idea of Slack is it is not social media. This is not something for the general public. In fact, this is just for our coaches that are involved with our programs here in the state. It is a communication tool. It's a place for you to hear from us. It is a place for you to communicate with us as well as with each other. We really would love to see conversations happening between our coaches to say, hey, how did you figure out this problem? Or where can I go to get information on such and such a piece of idea? Or just in general, kind of let us know how you're doing. You can put on there your outreach activities that your team's involved with. Maybe you're doing a fundraising for the public and you would like to get more people involved. These are all things you're welcome to post on there. We want to make it a community where everyone is helping each other out and suggesting improvements and supporting our activities. So if you follow the QR code on there, you can join Slack. So if you did miss that initial invitation in September, you can still join. Just scan the QR code there. Love to have you in there. Now, I do want to emphasize that the information we're sharing on Slack is secondary to the information Scott sends you in your newsletters. That is the primary source of information. So we're assuming that you're getting those newsletters and that you're reading them. And that's where all the most important information is. We will a lot of times repeat that information in Slack, but a lot of things that go into Slack are secondary or conversations happening between our coaches. What I'm getting to is this is not a requirement. This is just for your benefit. If you so choose not to join us, you're not going to be missing out. But if you want to be a part of the larger community and help each other out, you're welcome to join in on Slack and just join the conversation. All right, I'm going to pause here before I talk about league play and see if there's any questions from everyone. Again, feel free to unmute yourself or type them into the chat. I just saw somebody join Slack. Woo-hoo. One more addition. Wonderful. See, I lost most of my chat when I got had my little blackout there for a moment. So is there any questions that I need to address here? Yeah, okay. I see costume choice. Definitely want to make it sure it's school friendly. Yeah. So league play. Wave First Nevada runs our First Tech Challenge programs. And we do have it set up in a league format. If you go online and you kind of search some FTC materials around the world, this is just one of multiple approaches to delivering the FTC program. What league play is it's a series of little kind of mini games, if you will, and that's what we call the league meets. We have a handful of them coming up in December and January. I'll talk a little bit more about league play here and league meets here in a moment. But the idea is these are half-day events where you just run your robots and you try to score points. You get your ranking points that leads into your ranking score. And eventually all of this is going to feed into a league tournament. And we have 2 leagues, one in the north, one in the south. So all of our northern teams are going to get together for a league tournament in Reno. All of our southern teams are going to get together for a league tournament down here in I almost said South Carolina, wow, in Las Vegas. And from those 2 league tournaments, we'll have a handful of teams advance on to our state championship later in February. That event will be down in Las Vegas. Every year we flip-flop between Las Vegas and Reno, and so this year's turn is the South will host that. And then out of that state championship, a very small number of teams will go on to the World Championship, where they'll represent Nevada with the rest of the world competing. So this is our schedule. Make sure your team has marked your dates. We do have the league meets, again, are those half-day events. We have one on December 7th, January 11th, and January 25th. That is both in Reno and Las Vegas. League tournaments, early February. These are a Friday evening, all-day Saturday event, and then the state championship. Likewise, is a Friday evening, all-day Saturday event, and then the World Championship is a multi-day event. So let's talk a little bit more about league meets. Earlier this season, Scott gathered up your preferences for which league meets your team would like to attend. That is now, all that information has been gathered up, and our league assignments have been now put out publicly. So you should have received an email from Scott about your team's assignments. It's also available in our FTC public resource folder. So if you follow the QR code there, you can get to these documents. Do note that the one document does have both the north and the south in there. So you only need to find your table for your region and see if where your team is assigned. Now, at the moment, I believe all teams have a minimum of 2 league meets. Most teams actually have 3 league meets assigned to them. We are going to use what we've been doing for the last season or 2, where we're having kind of a standby model. If you want to compete in more than your assigned league meets, the idea here is that you would come to the league meet, and based on the availability, the local tournament director will decide if we can squeeze you in. Sometimes teams don't show up to their assignments. Sometimes we find that, we would like to get to a nice number divisible by 4 so that we have 4 teams per lines all the time. And so there's reasons we can maybe squeeze you in. So we're going to do a standby approach. A couple of things to note about that is if you, no matter who you are coming to a league meet, make sure you're ready to compete right away. The very first thing we do is do our inspections. So even if you're on a standby, we want to make sure your robot is ready to go, as well as the whole team. And then what we'll do is we'll wait a reasonable amount of time to make sure that other teams are not showing up. At that point, we'll incorporate you into the league meet. So for now, what I need you to do is make sure to go into this file, see what your assignments are, start planning your travel schedule so that you're there at those league meets. If something needs to be adjusted, please let Scott know, and we'll see what we can do to fit you into a new schedule. Well, here's what you kind of would expect at a league meet. They're a half-day event, as I said. They're about 4 hours long. They're really kind of all over the place because it does depend on the number of teams each league meet has. It also depends on how quickly we can get all of our teams through inspection. So when you do come to a league meet, it is an official competition. So you will be turning in a roster as you come in to check in. I'll talk about that more later on tonight. After you check in, your team will then go to your pit area. You'll put on your safety glasses, and then you'll get your equipment ready, and you'll immediately go into an inspection, either robot or field inspection. We try to get our teams through as fast as possible. Once we have all of our teams through inspection, we'll generate a match schedule for everybody. And then what we do is we just run robot matches, one right after another. And once we get into that, we get a nice groove, get a nice cycle time going, 6, 7, 8-ish minutes cycle time where we've got matches constantly going. The big thing about league meets is we don't have any judging. It is just the robot portion of the program. So what that also means is your entire team does not necessarily need to attend. They're welcome to, for sure, but you only really need to bring at least one adult coach and your drivers to our league meets. But again, everybody's welcome to come out. It's just that I just want to make sure everyone understands, if someone can't come to a league meet, a small portion of your team, that doesn't mean the whole team doesn't have to skip out on it. We really want to see you still there. So if only one coach, 2 drivers, great. 3, if you can bring in a human player and a drive coach, we love to have you come out, regardless if your whole team can't make it. At a league meet, you will play at least 5 matches, maybe more, depending on the schedule itself. Also, there are these things called surrogate matches. Sometimes we need to have a team fill in to make sure we have 4 teams on the field for every match. It's a lot of fun, and I know in the South, we've gotten to a pretty good groove where teams really kind of just jump in and we can get a nice cycle time going. I think from what I heard, the North is very much similar approach. It's a great fun event where we're just running robots over and over and over again. As a reminder of what you would need for a league meet, obviously you need to bring your robot. That is kind of the feature item for the event. You should bring some spare parts and tools for sure. Robots always need to be tightened up. Maybe something needs to be removed or added. So you want to do that. I do want to emphasize, league meets are not meant for building. You should not come in there with a half-built robot. You really need to come in with that robot ready to compete right away. It should be able to pass inspection the moment you unpack it. So don't come in thinking you can have a half an hour to an hour to add an attachment or continue building on it. We really need our teams ready to compete right away. You should also think about spare batteries, making sure your robot is always charged. Because our league meets are about 12 to 16 teams, give or take, we do go through our matches very rapidly, and it does drain the battery. So it's always a good idea to have a couple extra batteries on hand for your team, be able to swap them in and out. I've got stories from me coaching. I've got stories from watching teams where they really bury that battery deep in their robot, and it takes them forever to get it out. Design your robot so that battery can be swapped out quickly. Of course, the battery is no good if you don't have your charger with it. Make sure to bring it along. You should also think about bringing maybe a computer, although ideally your robot's already been programmed before you get there. There's always touch-ups you want to do. Also, you want to start scouting. Even at the league meet stuff, you still want to start scouting early on so you can start thinking about when you get to the league tournament, who would be a very good alliance partner for your team. Make sure you got those safety glasses, as I already talked about. It is the team's responsibility to bring those safety glasses. It's not First Nevada's. We will have a few emergency pair, but really it's on the teams to make sure to have your glasses there. As part of identifying who should be near the field, we will have our drive team buttons available again this year. We will hand those out at league meets. Teams will be responsible for maintaining their driver buttons throughout the season. So we'll hand them out the first time we see you, and then you'll hold on to them throughout the season. If you happen to lose them, no worries. We have a few extras, but we really would like you to kind of keep an eye on your driver buttons for it. Just as for our new coaches, the idea of these driver buttons is when we have a match going on, only certain people are allowed near the field. So each drive team is allowed to have 2 student drivers, 1 coach, and each alliance is allowed 1 human player. So we identify those people who can be at the field by those who are wearing the buttons that we've handed out. Especially during league meets, a lot of times we're in tight, close spaces where we tend to crowd the field even as spectators. This helps us identify who should be at the field as well. So the driver buttons are really important. The last one on there, of course, is the bottom left. Big change this year is the robot signs. So we are no longer using team markers. This year we're switching over to robot signs. The idea of a robot sign is a combination of a team number and an alliance recognition marker. So in the old days, you would write your team name, your team number on some device or some platform that would be identified from far away, and you just leave that team number on your robots all the time. And then you would swap out our team markers, which would let the referees and the match observers to understand which alliance each robot's on. This year is something brand new. We're combining those 2 together. So this year, teams are required to have these robot signs. There's very specific specifications from the competition manual of what those robot signs need to look like. There are minimum specs for the sizes and also for the color scheme involved. So we need to make sure our teams are ready for that when they come to the competition. I've seen myself a lot of teams who didn't even have their team markers ready or their team number set. Trying to get ahead of that, let everyone know there's a major change this year in these robot signs. Make sure your robot is designed to have these signs on them and to be able to swap it out relatively quickly. Because in one match, you might be a part of the Blue Alliance. The next match, you're in the Red Alliance. Then you stay on the Red Alliance. Then you go back to Blue. You're going to have to swap out your robot signs quite frequently throughout the league meets and the league tournaments. So in your design of your robot sign, make sure you kind of have that idea in mind. Yeah, and so Laura asked, can they be Velcroed on? Yeah, as long as they're secured on there, we definitely want to find a way that they're not going to end up as breadcrumbs, much like the entire loaf of bread if they fall off. You definitely want to make sure they're secured on there. Velcro tends to do well, but maybe think about a large patch of Velcro to put it on there pretty good. Yep. And it might be you do a combination and maybe it kind of sits behind a little ledge and then have Velcro holding it on there as well. Yeah, good. Yeah, bolting it down can take some time, that's for sure. Yeah. I've also thought about going back to the days of how the team markers used to work. Some teams found clever ways to have like a little sleeve that would fall into or slide into. There's all kinds of fun options you think about, especially with the usage of 3D printers. You can definitely find creative ways to have this sign quickly slide onto your robot. So another little nuance of the league play I want to talk about is the expectation is that all teams participate in 2 league meets. And the reason we kind of expect that is the results from your league meets actually pre-rank the teams as they head into the league tournament. So the idea is that every match the team plays in, they're going to earn ranking points. They'll get 2 points if they're a part of the alliance that wins the match. They'll get 1 point if the 2 alliances tie, or they'll get 0 otherwise. Those ranking points are then used to calculate what's called a ranking score. And the ranking score is the average ranking points throughout their matches. With league play, it's assumed that all teams participate in 10 matches. So it automatically, in calculating the ranking score, it averages with the assumption of 10 matches. So if your team does not participate in 2 league meets, or maybe sits out 1 league meet, or maybe just misses a match or 2, this structure is set up that basically you get 0 points, ranking points, for those matches you miss. So it's kind of really important that the teams participate in those league meets so they come into the league tournament pre-ranked, having done at least 10 matches. Now, there's a couple little subtleties I should share. One is if your team does participate in more than 10 matches, so that would be because you participated in, say, 3 league meets or maybe 4 league meets, we only take your 10 best matches. So that's great. So if you come out and you participate in 3 league meets, so you've got at least 15 matches under your belt, we only look at the top 10 versions of it. So if you have won 12 matches and lost 3, great. According to your ranking score, we see that you've won 10 matches. So you've got 10 ranking points. Divide that by 10 assumed matches. Excuse me, you got 20 ranking points. Divide that by 10, and your ranking score is 2, which is perfect. Now, the thing is, though, you'll go into your league tournament pre-ranked, and then we're going to add a few more matches at the league tournament. So you'll be able to improve your ranking at the league tournament. It's really vital that our teams do participate in those league meets, because if you fall behind and you don't have those scores, you're really going to be ranked low going to the league tournament, which really hurts your team's chances of advancing to the playoffs in the league tournament. Something that we'll talk about in a future Coaches Corner. Other thing I want to mention here because we're assuming every team participates in 2 league meets, we've built a season schedule where we do morning and afternoon league meets. So one location, you can actually knock out 2 league meets in one day. So if you come to one of the events there that I had listed earlier, just go back to that real quick. If you go to one of these league meet dates, there is a morning and afternoon option. You can actually knock out all 10 matches in one single day. And so you can guarantee that you've seen those 10 matches outright. That's good and bad. It's good in the sense that you get one day to get your 10 matches in. It's bad in the sense that you got to compete with that same robot for all 10 matches. One of the great things about league play that I really enjoy is it's an opportunity for you to compete, take your robot home, make improvements, and come back and compete again. So something to think about, maybe one of the disadvantages to doing all your league meets in one day. With that, I'm going to pause, open the floor, see if we have any questions from you. I see there's a couple in here. It doesn't look like they're good. Okay. Well, if you do have any questions, make sure to throw them in the chat, or of course, unmute yourself. Where I want to finish today's Coaches Corner is I want to talk a little administration with you. It's about making your team rosters. So as we come up on these league plays, when we start in December, you'll start needing to turn in your actual team roster at that time. So I want to bring this up now as you're starting to work with your team members and how you can get them added officially to your team roster. There we go. So first off, I'm going to step back and just remind everyone that hopefully you've came up with a fun team name and that you've shared that with us. And the way you do that is you would go into your first dashboard, sign into the team area, and under the team information section, there's a place for you to talk about your team profile. Under the team profile, you can rename your team. Now, in looking through everyone's rosters, it looks like most teams have taken care of this, but just in case your team would like to change their name this season, or maybe you're a rookie team and you haven't finalized what your team name is, it's a great fun way to build identity for your team. At the first tech challenge level, most teams kind of zero in on a team name and they stick with it year after year, and they really build an identity around that team name. So I just want to remind that it's a great part of the first experience this year. Although I don't have it in here, this year we're introducing avatars as well. I'll talk about that in the future Coaches Corner. You can not only have a team name, but now have a little avatar along with your team name as well. So again, if you haven't had a chance to do this with your team, go into your first team dashboard and update that team name or add one if you haven't already. Just as a reminder, our teams themselves are made up of 2 to 15 kids. So we need to have students in the age range of 12 to 18. That's grades 7 through 12. That's the kind of limitations on who can be on our teams. It's really up to you on how you select those team members. We just need to make sure you have the appropriate number of students in the appropriate age range, and then we're all good. That's part of what the team roster is about. So you're going to work as a coach to recruit students to be a part of your team. Just check that you've had under 15 team members and they all fall in that appropriate age range of 12 to 18 years old or grades 7 through 12. Once you've identified your students, what you want to do is then figure out how to get them onto your official team roster. These rosters are important from our point of view because these rosters are our way to check that each team has at least 2 YPP, that's Youth Protection Program screen coaches, as well as making sure all of the students have completed a consent and release form. So this is a standardized roster that your team would print off of their first dashboard and bring it to the event. They would turn it in during check-in, and we can quickly see, because it's a standardized form, that yes, we have 2 coaches per team, and that you have all of your students having their consent and release on file. Now with the league play, we do ask you bring a roster to each of your league meets. We don't pass them down from event after event. We also know that because the season is multi-months long, your team may evolve. You may lose students. You may add students as the season progresses. So we do ask you turn in a roster at each of your events. First event, we may excuse you because, yeah, we're still all learning, but we're going to get harder and harder on you as the season goes on, that we need to have those rosters turned in at every league meet, league tournament, and should your team advance to state championship. So let's get in a habit of generating them now. As for how you actually make your roster, well, First has a nice web page dedicated to this. If you go to the youth protection screening section, they have a bunch of drop-down menus. The 2 most important ones there, first off, is the landing page itself for the youth registration system. Also, we have a lot of questions from our parents. So there's specifically a parent guide to the First YPP program. These are great things to share with your parents. So if they asking, well, what's going on here? Why do I have to complete this form? You can share this information with them. Or if you're a coach and you're a little confused exactly what all this screening is about, if you're a teacher, why do you have to be screened again? All these questions are answered for you on this page. As for the actual mechanics of adding students to your roster, there is the old-fashioned way. If you're a veteran coach, you're welcome to continue to use this. The idea of how this was done is you would sign into your First team dashboard. You would go into your team contact section, and you would one by one enter your parents' information. What I mean, not your personal parents, I mean the parents of your students. You'll put in their contact information. That will then send them an email giving them information. The parents would then fill out the consent and release form for their child, and it would allow that child to then be added to their team roster. Coaches, you would then in step 3 have to go back in at a later date and actually add the students to your team roster. It was a little bit of back and forth. It worked for many years. This system is still in place. It's still one you could use. However, First has updated it, and there is a more efficient way to go about this. It's called the new express enrollment approach. The way it works is you, same starting point, is you would go into your First dashboard, and you're going to go over to your manage contact section, and you'll click on that. That will take you to a team contacts page where there is a button right in the middle of the screen that says QR code, or QR code link, I should say. You'll click on that. What you'll then do is add your parents' contact information in, one student at a time. So you'll build out your contact information there. That will then generate a QR code. And the beauty of this is you can now have the parents either come by your practices, scan the QR code, or you can take this QR code and email it to them. Then the parents can very quickly scan the QR code and add their child to your team. This is supposed to take anywhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 2 minutes for the parents to complete. You do not then have to go in later and add the students in. They will automatically be added to your roster. It's a very efficient way to go about this. The best suggestion I have is generate the QR code for your team. Meet the parents, invite them to come into a practice, 5-10 minutes. Just have this QR code on a sheet of paper, have them scan it, right on their phone. They can fill out all the information for their kids, and then you're done. It is a very smooth process, a much quicker way to add students to your team roster. And with that, I am done. So I'm going to open the floor to any questions you have about things I discussed this evening, or any questions that you might have in general about FTC. how's everybody doing so far this season? Do we have built robots? Don't have to be perfect, but do we have robots that move around yet? Public resource folder. Let me go back to that for you. If you scan that QR code, that should take you to our public resource folder. And looks like Scott just added the link directly in there as well. Yeah, robots are always a work in progress. One of the things I do enjoy very much about FTC is you do get a long time to plan out, design, and iterate that robot. Yeah. And do remember, we have a number of resources for you as well as first. We talked about some of those resources in the last Coaches Corner, which you can access that through this QR code. Oh no. Are we going to see your team this weekend, Awkward? I don't know if I'm talking to Jason or Jennifer. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, great, great. Oh, nice. Is there anything else? Any questions from teams? What's your biggest concern right now? So all the trainings that we're doing are available except for the engineering portfolio, and that's only because we haven't gotten to it on the calendar yet. Yeah, we're going to be at Canon a couple times this year. Yeah. What's that? Well, we have a big day coming up on Canon, that's for sure. Yeah. Well, if we don't have any other questions, we can call it a night a little 10 minutes early. As I always used to tell my students, just keep those 10 minutes in mind so that I can use them later and go an extra 10 minutes in a future one. So I appreciate everyone's time this evening. I'm looking forward to seeing a number of you this weekend and hearing about how the other half of the state went and seeing pictures from it. So thank you, coaches. I appreciate all that you do. And good luck, and I'll see you at a future event.